Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, so if you've been glued to your feed lately, endlessly refreshing and waiting for the next massive, earth-shattering AI model drop, you might actually be looking in completely the wrong direction. The AI industry is undergoing this massive foundational evolution right under our noses, and it is rapidly shifting away from the consumer chatbots we've all gotten so used to. We're moving from a world of algorithmic party tricks into an era of heavy industrial infrastructure and highly specialized autonomous agents. Today, we're going to break down exactly what this paradigm shift looks like, why the biggest players in Silicon Valley are pivoting so hard right now, and what it all means for the future of knowledge work.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look beyond the model hype. Then, we'll size up the billion-dollar compute era, unpack the pivot to services, and explore the booming agent economy. Finally, we'll tie the whole shebang together with the jagged frontier.
All right, Section 1, Beyond the Model Hype.
So we've got to address the elephant in the room right off the bat. There is this massive disconnect right now between what the public expects and what the industry is actually doing. A lot of folks are just on the edge of their seats waiting for GPT 5.5 or Claude 4. But the reality? The smartest money in Silicon Valley is pivoting, and I mean pivoting hard, toward infrastructure deals and enterprise services. The new frontier isn't really about just building a smarter brain anymore. It's about giving that brain a body, a desk, and a job description. And this brilliantly illustrates that shift.
To really hammer this home, check out this quote summarizing Anthropic's recent developer event. It says, "It was Anthropic's second annual developer event today, and the vibes were immaculate. No big model release." Now think about that for a second. The developer community was absolutely thrilled. The energy was through the roof. And yet, there was no new flagship model. Literally none. Some people looking from the outside might see that as a total disappointment, but honestly, it's the ultimate signal. The lack of a major model drop wasn't a failure at all. It was a loud, clear declaration of a strategic pivot toward making the models we already have actually useful in the real world.
Moving right along to Section 2, the billion-dollar compute era.
Look, if we aren't just dropping new chat interfaces anymore, it means we're actually building the massive physical reality required to run them. And the sheer scale here is it's almost incomprehensible. So the crucial point is this staggering 300 megawatt footprint, like what we're seeing with the xAI Colossus supercomputer. To put that into perspective, 300 megawatts is not some beefy server closet. That is industrial scale power. We're talking enough juice to power hundreds of thousands of homes. We are totally moving out of that abstract cloud era and entering a phase of moving literal Earth and securing massive power grids. And the price tag attached to that kind of infrastructure? $5 billion a year. Just let that sink in for a moment. $5 billion. This astronomical annual financial commitment really cements a harsh new reality for the tech world. The era of pure, scrappy, algorithmic research, a couple of geniuses in a garage, is officially over. We have entered monumental, industrial-scale physical deployment. If you want to play at the frontier of AI today, you don't just need brilliant mathematicians, you need $5 billion a year just to keep the lights on for your compute clusters.
Which brings us to Section 3, the pivot to services. So how on earth do these AI labs plan to pay that $5 billion power bill? Because let me tell you, you definitely can't do it with $20 a month chatbot subscriptions. No way! This massive compute scale requires a totally new commercial playbook. Let's move to and see how this builds out practically. Step 1, foundational model labs are universally tacking on dedicated agent labs to chase down last-mile revenue and gather differentiated data. Step 2, coding agents are basically breaking containment. They aren't just politely auto-completing lines of code anymore. They are independently building and testing entire repositories from scratch. And finally, Step 3, these platforms are aggressively pursuing the rest of human knowledge work. They're actively transitioning from tools that you use to services that you hire. Section 4, the agent economy.
Now, this is the practical boots-on-the-ground side of the pivot. It's all about turning those heavy compute investments into managed AI agents that can actually be deployed into the broader economy. Remember that Anthropic event we mentioned a minute ago? Well, the big news there wasn't a model, but rather 3 specific new features for Claude-managed agents. The entire focus was on giving developers the tools to monitor, direct, and integrate AI seamlessly into corporate workflows. It's all about reliability and enterprise deployment now. Silicon Valley is hyper-focused on making absolutely sure these agents can reliably execute multi-step business processes without going off the rails or hallucinating.
And let me tell you, the market is wildly optimistic about this agent-based future. Just take a look at this number, $15 billion. That is the massive valuation of Sierra, a company that is deeply embedded in this space after they recently raised around $1 billion. This standalone number alone proves the astronomical financial backing that is just pouring into the Asian-based service economy right now. Wall Street and venture capitalists, they aren't just betting on raw intelligence anymore. They are betting heavily on the companies that can package that intelligence into autonomous, reliable digital workers.
And finally, Section 5, the jagged frontier. Okay, so we've talked about the what, the how, and the how much. But to truly understand this massive shift, we need to understand the underlying why. Why the big pivot from pure foundational models to these hands-on managed services? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this insider quote from OpenAI's Alex Leposka. He actually describes evaluating AI models as doing vibe physics. I mean, I absolutely love that phrasing. It's so accurate, because it highlights that testing AI capability right now is a highly nuanced, completely inexact science. We are literally dealing with alien architectures here. When a new model finishes training, we don't mathematically know exactly what it's going to be good at and what it'll fail at until we actually poke and prod it. It relies on vibes just as much as physics.
And that inexact science reveals a really fascinating phenomenon known as the jagged frontier. This is the uneven, highly unpredictable landscape of AI capabilities. For example, an AI might pass the bar exam with flying colors, which obviously is a super complex task, but then it might completely fail at basic elementary school math or struggle to reverse spell a word. It's wild, because foundational models are so inherently unpredictable across this jagged frontier, you just cannot drop them into a Fortune 500 company and expect magic to happen. Dedicated managed agents and specialized service layers are strictly required to smooth out those jagged edges and actually make the AI work reliably in the real world.
So, look, we're officially out of the hype phase and squarely into the deployment phase. The compute is funded, the massive data centers are literally being built right now, and the agents are being trained to navigate this jagged frontier of intelligence. Which really leaves us with one incredibly important question to close out this explainer. How will your specific industry adapt as these managed AI agents cross that jagged frontier to master the rest of human knowledge work? The paradigm has already shifted, folks. Now it's just time for the rest of us to catch up. Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.